Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices. We have a deep discussion going on about opioids and how it's affecting the Black community. And so today we have Bernice Chumasi, and we are going to continue our discussion. And I think we left on Fred that you had a question.
Yeah, I want to go uh, to this issue of Netflix concentrating only on white folks. And I don't find that unusual for white folks to do that because when their little bitty kids start getting strung out on drugs, they get concerned. It could, if that was only a problem in the black community, they wouldn't give a damn. And we know that. Heroin only became a problem when they start using heroin. In fact, I believe they like to have the drugs in the black community to keep us, drugged up. So we will never unite as a people. So I think that's why Netflix concentrated on the white folks.
One of the things, I'll give a quick synopsis. One of the things about the series Dope Sick is that they were focusing not only on the manufacturing of opioids, but also how it was to be marketed. And so when you look at the marketing side, they were really looking for young, white, female college students and making them the pharmaceutical uh, uh, dealers and to go into these doctors' office to get them to buy these drugs from uh, pharma. I can't think of the name of the company right now, but it was a pharmaceutical company. And yes, there were some black folks involved on the sales side, but they were really focusing on the young white girls who were going to be out there going to these doctors' offices because not only did they start out maybe like with 7 milligrams, then they got the doctors to increase the usage from 7 to maybe 14 to 40 or whatever to get this nationwide dependency on the drugs. So you were also seeing the development of pain management centers where there were long lines around buildings. And so it had several stories built into the series. And I think is even though they're saying there are some uh, fictitious information, I firmly believe that it was more real than fictitious.
Well, I think I'm a little confused because you said in your opening that they concentrated on the black dealers
Well,
and
what I said was that the focus was on it was a white problem, and the only time they focused really more on us was fact more as the street hustlers or promoters.
oh,
They didn't
okay,
talk about the effects
okay,
of
okay.
the drugs.
Are hustlers using a different form of drug as opposed to the young girls who are going in and selling it to the
So
doctors?
if I could address that?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
You're going to talk about punitive policies, right?
Later.
Okay.
Absolutely. So the answer is absolutely yes. And so you'll need to connect the drug dealers who then receive the drugs from the businessmen, right? Globally, remember? They then like to use fentanyl 100% because fentanyl is less expensive than heroin and morphine. And you take a tiny millimeter piece of it and a person will overdose on it, fentanyl.
Just a little.
A tiny, which you almost can't see. So what they have done is stats. So fentanyl is 50% more potent, tiny piece, than heroin. And fentanyl is 100% more potent than morphine. And so the drug dealers they have a signature. So we look for a signature. So the signature is on the streets. So when we want to bust a drug dealer, you look for a signature and you lead towards RICO law, towards them, to then get to the big guys. So the signature of all the drugs, such as I'm going to take marijuana as an example. So, and one reason why the feds won't make marijuana legal, but the states, they're sovereign, like sovereign nations, they can decide to do it. People don't know this. So they cut the drugs with a little bit of fentanyl to give the buyer a fantastic high. because of the word, as we all know here, the tolerance level gets to a place where they don't feel that same fantastic euphoric high. So the fentanyl will give them that, and then they will die, and their comrades on the street will say, "Wow, that must have been a great high because they died."
Oh my
The
God.
brain's affected. The brain is affected. Maybe the brain may be affected permanently.
They
With
really
research in
think
that.
that way?
Yes. And so they go to that drug dealer to get that particular high. Because of course we human beings, either we don't mind dying when we're on drugs and the pain of all sorts of crimes like rape and so on, or human trafficking, or we in that euphoric moment, the brain is like wanting to be that euphoric and we'll be able to control not dying, right? We can control not dying. So this is what occurs. So again, please, let's take it off the Black community, because the Black community stats are really iffy about us overdosing because we never get the autopsy. We don't get the autopsy. We just don't. So why are the stats changed?
What,
Doc-
go ahead.
Dr. Tomasi, I'm a little bit confused when I see the news and they talk about the possibility of a police officer that just came in contact, not even taking the
Correct.
drug or whatever, can become addicted to something like, I guess, fentanyl or whatever it may be. This thing is really very potent.
Correct. And thank you for bringing that up. So what we're trained on is this, that when people on the road, like a truck driver or a civilian that's not a truck driver, when they have a car accident and the police come to help and say they died having the car accident, they don't have an autopsy. It's written cause of death, accident, correct? But what we know is they could have taken marijuana or something cut with fentanyl, and they were going, their brain was going out of it, of course. And so they had the accident and they died from that, not from the car accident. But again, let's go back to medical exam. Medical examiner does not do an autopsy unless the family, like a Tesla person, asked for it. They wouldn't in that case. You'd say it's a car accident. So the police, back to law enforcement, and law enforcement is not just police. People mix up that terminology. Law enforcement is judges and lawyers and CIA and FBI and DEA. So the police, so I am specific. The police answer the call and they're trained, but they don't always do it. Not to give them CPR, to wear gloves, all because of fentanyl, to have Narcan. But that hadn't been happening and the police die. It's not that they get hooked, no, they die there. Cause of death of the police was as they were accosting or so accident, they passed away, correct?
Just because of coming in contact.
100%, it's that potent.
Well, let's see. Heroin is a downer, isn't it? And this is an upper.
No, it's not an upper, it's a downer.
It's a downer.
So the
too?
brain feels happy, doesn't feel pain. It's like la la land, right? And heroin does the same thing.
I thought heroin,
And
I
morphine
would
is-
never use it,
it's-
but
Oh, no, you talk, you know all about uppers and downers. You talk about sound like you know what?
Yeah, so you go ahead. It's all good.
I'm listening to it.
It's all good.
no,
We're learning.
I thought that one was a downer and the other was an upper. You're saying that
They're all opioids. They all belong to the opioid. And
Heroin
fentanyl,
does?
yeah. And fentanyl belongs to opioid family as well, but it's synthetically made. Fentanyl is used, right? We know this in surgical rooms legally for anesthesia to bring you down. And so that's why anesthesiologists are extremely, almost like accountants, hyper vigilant accountants, that they have to watch how much of the anesthesia they give the patient. Sometimes patients do die from anesthesia.
How far is the
it
opioid
brings it
coming
down.
out of South America? You mentioned China, but
do something.
Synthetic fentanyl, yeah,
oh,
from
so
China.
China's synthetic, and then you've got like for Colombia or whatever that they're bringing in the what?
For Colombia, it's more, isn't it more cocaine?
Cocaine.
Yeah. So
Let me, this is probably another show, but why are we so, as Americans, so susceptible? Why did everybody look at us say, let's get the drugs into America? And all trying to get
two
in here.
reasons.
Psychologically, what's wrong with Americans that they need these drugs so
Okay, maybe three
desperately.
reasons that's not talked about because I want the audience to know this is new information. First of all, the United States of America is represented by 205 nations at least because the last Olympics said there are 205 nation members. And when I say represented by them, they're citizens. They came on the boats, they swam across. For America's a baby country, like 300
It
years
is.
old. So we're represented, apart from the Native Americans, Incas, and Aztecs, by all the countries, right? So then we have a network. Even if we came here 300 years ago, we say we are Irish, right? Okay, so that's one. Two, we have all the money. Americans don't want to believe that and say we're rich. I won't say something controversial, I want to, but it's another show. We are wealthy. Even the people who are looked upon as poverty stricken in the US are wealthy because they have clean water, streets, roads, free medical care if they go to emergency room. That's wealth in the rest of the world, right? Three, I already talked about the financial. We have the money, so they bring it where there's money, right? And the
Disposable.
disposable income. And we may think we're broke, but we still have the disposable income, even those on the streets who are buying it.
But you have to have a consumer who's willing to buy it. And I guess I said that for another show.
That's why the third one I should have said to you. I apologize for interrupting. The third one is the statistics that I already brought up. The whole world's always looking at the US and doing wrong statistics. So if you took a state like Delaware as a state and compared it to Holland, you would see that Holland has the issue too. So I want to tell you all the countries, and I've talked about this publicly, all the countries have a big issue with opioids, addiction, and overdoses, all of them, right? But they like to just use us because we're the leader country. They love to gossip about, talk about, point fingers at it. That's why the map I said in the introduction was clearly important. When I said the United Kingdom fits in Texas with lots of space to spare, Germany fits in Texas with lots of space to spare. That will bring all the audience, and I'm talking to professionals, traders, I'm talking to everyone to say, check your analysis, please. Check your cognitive with what I just said. The United States is gigantic. There's no other country as huge as the United States in terms of the countries. Now, one of our brilliant people here talked about Africa today. Ghana, where I'm from, fits in Indiana. So when you do the stats, 100%, when you do the stats in the United States, you have to take the stats in Indiana alone and Ghana, and you'll see Ghana also has a problem with this. But what people like to do is false, is deceptive. They take the whole United States and say, look at that stats. Got it?
Got it, yes.
So we have any other comments?
I just was going to say to Fred, he was asking why Americans. I think
No, I don't want to hear from you. You talk about
I want to hear from you.
Americans, and I say this tongue in cheek, but it's actually very true. We're probably the most gullible people on earth. When you look at when Dr. Tomasi is talking about the type of money and things that we have, we're the only people who's got 2 or 3 cars in the garage, TV in every room, and all that kind of stuff. And I maintain that the reason that China needs somebody like the United States is because we're the only people going to buy all their stuff.
So, okay.
And I will repeat that the other countries are buying all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just the US.
Okay.
They just like to focus on the baby country because it's so gigantic.
Okay.
But with that being said, we're going to end our discussion today about this topic that probably needs more discussion. And before we go off, I want to say we want to give our appreciation to our dictator and producer, Mr. Carl Booker, who without him, these type of shows would not be possible. So Carl, we thank you. And with that, we're going to get ready for hot topics coming up next.